Julia, I trust you are well here.
I am.
In Studio B at the Beach Street Yacht Club.
Waiting for summer to come. Keep saying it's coming.
Sunny outside. It looks okay outside, but it's cold here in San Francisco. Hi, everybody. I'm your host, Tom Eman. You saw the postponement flag at the top of the show. We're AP'd from yesterday when we had a power outage here in the Marina District. We'll tell you a little bit about that in a sec. Alan Long thinks there's power here in the Marina District. Yes, there is. Hi, Fritz Mueller in Miami. Blake Middleton. Well done with the AP down. It could have been 1 minute before the start, though. Well, it could have been, but that would have been too much of a delay, Blake. Too technical as a race officer that he is, Julia.
Yes.
I trust you're well. Any hot tips?
No, not really, except that it is ready for... It is ready. I is ready for summer.
I is ready too. And here's our agenda for today. I don't know what to call it. Show notes, agenda, table of contents.
The starting line.
The starting line. Good idea, Julia. It's the starting line. Happy Wednesday. That was yesterday's slide before we had to AP the show. Happy Sailors Lube Day. Do you know what Sailors Lube is? Mm-mm. Do you want to know? And why the AP flag? We'll tell you about that. Bravo Zulu to the Royal Ocean Racing Club's Myth of Malum race. And also Storm Trisal's Block Island race will feature here in the A block. Coaching Corner. We'll kick off the B block. John Emmett, he is Masters racing in Belgium, but didn't we get a note yesterday saying he was now in Holland?
Yes.
Maybe he nipped over there for a bit of a reefer or something at one of the cafes in the Netherlands. I don't know what he's doing. FOSI Focus, cool up-close video of Harry Price & Co. It is really a cool, quick video we'll show you. Then we'll get into the America's Cup when in Rome, which was on Monday, the introduction of the Cup featuring the Primo Ministro. But there were no challengers there, at least none of the big three. And then today, there was the presentation of the Cup, or Cups, I should say, because the America's Cup and the Louis Vuitton Cup in
Rome.
Napoli.
Napoli.
Rome on Monday, Napoli today. We'll cover all. By the way, there's no truth to the rumor that we delayed the show by 1 day so we could get the coverage in from Naples today. That is simply not true. We would have happily put that in the show on Friday rather than today.
Yes.
We'll talk some more about the deed of gift and why, the deed of grift as somebody's calling it, why Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron is still the worst trustee in the Cup's history, Julia.
And they haven't offered any playback.
They weren't in Rome. They weren't in Naples. Their Commodore is barely not referred to. The club is, if at all, hardly at all referred to. Sail GP, we got a little bit of news about the Red Bull Italy team. Actually, some major ownership announcement from Jimmy Spithill, who's the CEO and co-owner. And lastly, Classics in slow-mo, a fantastic video by Roger Mills, Hummingbird Vid, and photo down in Auckland. We'll wrap the show up with that. Today, plus this day in history, Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, our fantastic FOSI, and much more, Julia. A lot of people signed in already. There's Margarita Marshall, longtime friend.
Ah, yes.
In Italy, the media is already getting crazy. Yes, we'll show that to you as well. Thanks, Margarita. Nice to see you on. Mark Holland, that could become a regular segment. Why are they the worst? Tier DeYoung down in SoCal. Ed Worley, RNZYS. Who is that? Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron, he's asking. John won in Belgium. Alistair Murray, who's up early in Sydney, 0605. Yeah, Julie, I guess he won in Belgium, and now maybe he's progressed to Holland from Belgium.
Yeah, good for him.
John said he's going to be in Naples later this summer. He's going to do a coaching corner from there and give us a report.
Oh, good.
Nice. Peter Taylor in New York City, and on and on and on. Gordon Smith, Fritz Mueller, Greg Phillips from the Gold Coast of Oz. And on and on and on. I think Pedro Foiling Sailor, we didn't mention. The lights have come back on in San Francisco. Banner old Rick has been under the weather. He's been out shooting in the cool gray northeastern weather, I think, shooting cameras, shooting photos. I hope he is okay. Just like he says, it's soon to be rainy in Connecticut, just like my upper respiratory infection. David James, Christopher Gillingham, and more. Thanks, everybody, for coming on. And if you enjoyed this photo, you'll enjoy this show. She's holding the cup, and maybe it's just from the weight of the cup. That's the Prime Minister. And that's why she's looking at Mr. Dalton like, I hope I don't drop the cup. Or is she looking at him, Julia?
Saying what?
Saying WTF, Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. What have I gotten myself into? We shall see.
Right.
But I hope those of you in the States who were celebrating over the weekend, it seems like it was only yesterday, but it was Monday, our Memorial Day weekend holiday. It's really become now a 4-day weekend here in the States, kicking off on Friday, running through Monday, which is more than a long weekend. It's the day on which we in the States remember and honor military personnel who died in the line of duty, our Memorial Day and Memorial Day weekend, which is also the unofficial kickoff for our summer. Now, we had a little bit of a family barbecue here. We were graced by the presence of the Commodore of the Beach Street Yacht Club.
Oh, yes.
Came down for lunch, actually, a late lunch, early dinner on Monday in the Beach Street Yacht Club grill room as we watched some of the basketball, the NBA playoffs continue. And Julia, I see in that photo, you see, it's hard to see there, but over here, just behind the salt shaker, is a golden Easter bunny.
Yes.
You see that? It's still there from Easter.
Yes.
And I guess nobody has eaten that. You can clearly see it in that photo, right?
Yes.
So I don't know why that's there, but it reminded me of that gold-wrapped chocolate bunny from Easter. It reminded me of this cartoon. Honey, remember that Easter egg nobody could find? Up pops in the cushions of the couch, in the sofa, a little chiclet.
Yes.
And I hope we don't have some bunnies coming out of that.
Well, you might.
We might if
you had more than one bunny.
Somebody needs to eat that sooner than later. You brought that down here. Thank you. I know. I appreciate that very much. We did have a power outage yesterday. We knew it was going to happen, but it was promised to be, as you can see in this slide, from 10 until noon yesterday. So we got the show prepared early. We both got ourselves cleaned up and down here because Julia can't come down in the elevator when the power's out. And you did come down in the elevator right after the power came on. And then as you were just getting out of the elevator here at this level,
it went off.
The power went out again, and you could have been trapped in that elevator had you not a split second earlier. And maybe not for long because I don't know how long it was, another 5-10 minutes before we got the power back. But you never know. These elevators get dodgy, too, after they've had a power on and off.
Yeah, there were people in the marina, not here.
Across the street.
Yeah.
We're going to show you a video. You think poorly of me. I didn't have that on video.
All right.
So, yes, it was a bit of a dodgy day. And finally, I threw in the towel. As some of you will have seen, I put up a quick video and said, okay, enough of this. Because, we could be, in fact, we're still not out of the woods. There's a big generator I'll show you in a moment, a block away that apparently is powering us, not the mains, as you Brits would say.
Yeah, they're doing repair work.
Well, they still are. I talked to the guys yesterday, and they are replacing a transformer. And this is PG&E yesterday. Good morning. We're outside of the Beach Street Yacht Club, and there is this big crowd of PG&E workers here on the street. They've got their porta potty. They're waving. Yep. Hello, guys. And a big operation here at the corner of Beach and Broderick, which is going to cut our power here at the Beach Street Yacht Club. So we hope we get a show together for you. And they did, in fact, cut our power. And then it came back on, then went back off. And across the street, Julia.
Yes.
Now somebody across the street at 2200 Beach Street is stuck in the elevator. And the fire department has come to rescue. I don't know why that's funny. Because of this PG&E outage here in the Marina District.
Ours is supposed to go to the very bottom if you push anything.
Our elevator.
Yeah.
The elevator that you and your late husband put in here at the Beach Street Yacht Club. What, 15 years ago?
Yeah.
And that was why. You want to tell the story or do you want me to?
What?
Why you put the elevator in?
Well, because It was hard to get up.
Because
it was a third floor walk up.
When I moved in here in the second floor, you said, Conrad and I both are going to go out of here feet first.
That's
We're
right.
not going into a home.
Yep.
An old folks' home someplace, and that's why they put the elevator in. And it was a princely sum.
Yes.
It was a fair bit.
More
it was
than the house.
150, right?
Yeah, more than the house cost in the first place.
Well, and if adding insult to injury, yesterday outside the front door when I shot that video was their porta potty. I mean, it's literally right at the foot of our front steps. And okay, they got to go somewhere. Got to be union. They're all standing around. Alan Long said, PG&E. Anyway, the guys were great. I did talk to them yesterday afternoon, and they worked all night. And our power did go out at night for briefly last night, and then today they're all gone. When I got up this morning, went out and looked on the street today was empty. But I did have a look around the corner, Julia. And I thought work must have been completed overnight. That's why I put the question mark there. But in fact, do you see that?
It's scheduled through Friday.
Well, yeah, but you never know. They put those notices out, and they're kind of worst case notices. But see that? That is that generator truck. And that generator truck, I don't know if you can see the black cables going from it down into the street. But I think that thing's been running all night and this morning. Yes. And I think it is powering us, or maybe it is backup power. So if we go off the air here, folks, you'll know that generator ran out of diesel fuel, Julia. Okay. You'll have to go down there and fuel that thing up. But
no problem.
Hopefully we will survive. And Gordon Smith says that maybe we need the bourbon cream to help.
Oh, that's...
You want some bourbon cream here?
In a minute.
We wait for the FOSI to make that comment in the chat. And then if we do, we'll get... So that's the story. We did have a power outage. Knock on wood. We're fully powered today, whether by that generator or PG&E's, the mains, I don't know. But we'll carry on here and hope that that big generator, if it is powering us, does not fail. What are we celebrating? Or, Julia, what were we celebrating yesterday? What's that look like? That's in her hand.
A beauty device.
Yes, it is. Was yesterday, National, in fact, World Sunscreen Day on May 27th.
Which has just gone out of fashion.
Well, exactly. A skin-cautious holiday comes on Sunscreen Day, celebrated every year on May 27th. Yesterday, the day raises awareness for sunscreen products and their valuable benefits to our skin in overall well-being. I don't know how to read the rest of this, but because everybody knows. But did you put on bronzer? Did you try to get tan as a kid?
Oh, of course.
And now?
I don't.
If you go out in the sun down in the park, you wear a hat and try not to get sun on your skin?
No. I just...
Did you ever, and I have a cartoon at the end of this show about this, did you ever sail naked? Did you ever have...
No, of course not.
You didn't. You say, of course not.
Of course not. Okay. No honorable lady sailor.
Well, it's tougher for men to sail naked. Let me, trust me. But anyway, we don't, I remember as kids, we tried to get tan all the time. And
yes, absolutely.
Knock on wood, I don't have any skin problems.
I grew up in the beach.
Hopefully.
In a beach town.
Say clean. And by the way, when I was down in San Diego running the Cup and living down there for the better part of 10 years, they, at San Diego Yacht Club, to their everlasting credit, they had a dermatologist came over and some of his or her staff, I can't remember, and they brought the beds, and in a room in the club, you could strip down and put a towel over. It was like you were getting a massage, but what they were doing was checking every square inch of your sun, because San Diego, like New Zealand and Australia, were
Carpinteria.
Slip, slap, slop.
Yeah.
Is the claim in Australia, at least, to stay out of the sun, because you get melanoma because you get so much sun in those climes.
Right.
And at San Diego Yacht Club, we used to get skin checks voluntarily. You could go in and have a volunteer skin check, which I thought was a very good thing to do. I'm not sure they're still doing it. They're probably worried about it. There's John Roger. We'll ask him.
I'd love to know that.
Harkin Derm, Alan Long is talking. We've had Dr. Harkin on here.
Yes.
Peter
Santa
Harkin's
Barbara
wife.
used to have a double double-handed sail naked race.
Jane Watkins, is that the name of the race, John Rogers?
I have no idea.
Now, John's the head coach at San Diego Yacht Club, and we did not cue this up. John, are you still at San Diego Yacht Club doing derm checks for skin cancer at that club? It seems like a good thing to do. And David James confirming, yes, Hawaiian Tropic suntan lotion that we had as kids seems currently out of fashion.
Well, but they've just said that suntan lotion is
sunscreen
isn't good for you.
Well, there is that debate now I see going on too, that maybe having sunscreen lotion on, which blocks the UVA or the UVB or whatever it does, is maybe not so good for you. It's just better to stay blocked, keep a long sleeve shirt on, and keep a hat on, and so on. There is an image of a female Olympian sailing a laser naked. Yes, that is here, the lady in the States here, the most fit human being I think I've ever seen. Okay, we're not getting an answer from John Rogers. Maybe he's having to check with the club. But Julie, we got one last joke here apropos all of this. Normally in the D block, but I put it right up here. A sailor's diet: rum, bad decisions, and sunburn. That came from Clayton Embley and Ed Worley. So I thought I'd stick that in here at the top of the show.
Yes.
And we also, of course, are celebrating all of you. We appreciate very much your support. Those of you who give us $1 or $2 or more per month, or send us care packages. Got another one yesterday.
Ooh.
Yeah, from a FOSI, and we appreciate it.
Yes, we
very
did.
much, because we wouldn't have a studio. We wouldn't have all this equipment around us to put this show on. It does to do a quality job. It does take a bit of gear, and we appreciate very much your support via Patreon, patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. John Rogers still commenting with us. Jane Watkins is a Santa Barbara local who I think has a picture in her house in the double-handed sailing naked race. Julie, that's right up by where you were born and raised in Santa Barbara.
Right.
Did you, and you never sailed in that race, or you're just not admitting to it?
I've never known about that race. How's that?
John Rogers, as DBA, the coach, the head coach in San Diego Yacht Club's youth program, an esteemed, huge youth program. He is saying that sunscreen, they give to the kids, and we monitor their sun exposure, John is saying, as I'm sure they do in all junior programs everywhere. Blake Middleton at the College Sailing Nationals in Charleston, a team, male and female, both did a naked race. They did wear life jackets, but nothing else. What kind of cretonicism is that, Blake? Did they really do that? College kids these days, Julie.
Yeah.
It was probably a long time ago.
I like the George Hamilton cocoa butter.
Is that guy still alive?
I think so.
George Hamilton, famous for his suntan. Okay, enough of all this. Thanks for your support. We appreciate it very much. Keeps us on the air, because this is so I can say what I mean and mean what I say, and we're going to get into it again during the Cup today.
Yeah. And
so that you all can feel free to comment as well without getting canceled. We respect all constructive comments on here, and we appreciate all the FOSI and beyond. If you're new, and you haven't put your name in the chat, please do, so we can see that you're here, where you're from, and welcome to all of you new and veterans. Yes. See how I use veterans instead of old? Seasoned veterans at that. Ed Worley says he now wears SPF, sun protection factor rated clothing now to protect his skin. Larry Kennedy, hola, from FIDI NYC. That's the financial district in New York City. Some kid named Kennedy moving to West Coast doing SoCal 300 this weekend. Larry's kid, Colin Kennedy, who's a hell of a, not only a good sailor, but is a good kid. He's been part of our Gov Cup TV team now for a number of years. And Colin Kennedy, give him a big hug for us, Larry, and we'll see him in a month's time, I hope, for the Rose Cup, when we cover Rose Cup down there at the end of June. Then we'll do Gov Cup at Balboa Yacht Club the end of July. Julia?
Yes.
It's a good event. Speaking of good people, next Tuesday, we'll have Charlie on. Charlie Enright has been appointed, as you all know, CEO of U.S. Sailing. He will be our live studio, well, not in the studio, it'll be live via Zoom, next Tuesday, the 3rd of June. He'd have been on today, or yesterday, but I was worried about the power outage.
Yeah.
Had a number of guests who were ready to come on yesterday. We said, well, what happens if we have this power outage and they take longer than the 2 hours they say they're going to take to fix things?
Yeah.
That would have been a disaster. Oh, so Colin Kennedy is moving. He has been living, I think, in Washington, D.C. He's moving to Newport Beach. Okay, great. That's good news, too. Join us for that show next Tuesday when we have Charlie Enright on the show.
That's good.
Julia, over the weekend, we had these regattas. It's a big regatta weekend here in the States. We told you on Friday's show about the Hyannis Yacht Club on Cape Cod, and they run an annual race that have been since 1972, running the famous Fagawi race. Welcome party on Friday. They race Saturday from Hyannis on the Cape Cod, out across Nantucket Sound, out to the island of Nantucket. It's about a 20 nautical mile as the crow flies, and then the race committee, Tom Duggan, who's been the PRO of that race, an Olympic race officer and so on, a terrific race officer in this country. He's been the PRO for years. They run a pursuit race, meaning they start the slower boats first, and then they all get out to Nantucket more or less the same time and head of a hell of a good party. Well, that was, they did have that race. And by the way, you remember what Fagawi means, Julia?
Yes.
You get lost in it. It's a very often foggy race.
Yes.
Often very foggy race. And the Fagawi means where the Fagawi.
Yeah.
Where the Fagawi.
Yeah.
Bravo Zulu to them, and also Bravo Zulu to a couple other. Well done in praise of performance. They had 70 some odd boats, a big event, and likewise there were two other big events over the weekend, and not because of Memorial Day necessarily, but the RORC ran their Myth of Malum race, which is a warm up, Julia. It's a warm up for the Fastnet race, and they go out about halfway to Fastnet Rock, and it's a qualifier as well. They had a big turnout and a terrific event, apparently, by all accounts. The course is from the Eddy out to the Eddystone Light, North Head Buoy. It's approximately 235 miles, so roughly half of the 600, whatever it is, mile race. Organized by the Royal Ocean Racing Club in association with the squadron. First held in 1958, the Myth of Malum race has built a rich legacy for more than 6 decades of offshore racing. 2025 edition proudly joins the ranks of its most memorable chapters. The race brought together the largest fleet seen in RORC racing since the record-setting 2023 Rolex Fastnet race. A total of 140 yachts racing over 900 sailors from 28 nations.
Wow.
Lined up for the 235 nautical mile offshore challenge. 12 boats destined for the 2025 Admirals Cup, the renewal of that has been led, at least in part, by our FOSI Mr. Dr. Andrew McIrvin. They were among the diverse RORC armada with professional sailors and passionate Corinthians racing with the Royal Ocean Racing Club. And here, Commodores, ladies and gentlemen, is a superb video.
We've got 140 boats doing the Myth of Malum race. The first 115 miles of that replicates the first part of the Fastnet race. We've also got a fair few of the Admirals Cup boats using this race as their first bit of practice before the main event in July.
We had a perfect condition. It was windy at the beginning, and for us, it's the most important race to prepare the Fastnet. We can test the crew and we can test the material.
We're 5 clipper boats. All of us skippers and mates kind of know each other, and there's a lot of banter, but when we're out in the water and we're racing, we want to race each other, so we all kind of want to win. But we're equal boats. It'll be interesting to see. It's going to be fun. The team that I'm doing it with is actually the team that I sailed around the world with a year and a half ago now. So we were Team Perseverance then on the clipper race, and now a bunch of us got together to do the Fastnet, which is obviously a dream for many of us, and now we're here to do the Myth of Malum as a qualifier.
We are a very young crew. The oldest is the skipper is Gert-Jan Poortman, been around the world 3 times, but all the other sailors are new to offshore sailing.
Super busy out here, done about 20 tacks already, just living the life.
On board Long Courrier, we've just managed to pass Portland Bill with Jerry on the helm, and we're doing really well. We had a bit of tide against us, but now we've managed.
It was tough conditions, and in the past we had some issues with the boat, and we made it stronger and made it better. We trained hard as a team, and we really proved to do a better job. And young guys, average age 23 years old, only on a big boat for 3 years, and to be doing this kind of offshore racing in these conditions is really, really impressive.
It was quite difficult when we passed the start point. It was windy, wet, a lot of waves, so it was the hard part of this race, and we didn't break anything on board.
On board Long Courrier, just after passing 1 hour ago Eddystone, and very satisfied to have this long run after a very, very difficult night.
As a skipper with a crew full of people that do this for fun and are not necessarily professional daily racers, it's really important to stay focused, stay positive, keep a level head. Things will go wrong. It's sailing, something happens. I think the most important thing is at that moment to kind of like take a step back, relax, and figure out what the first step is, and kind of show that to the rest of the crew, and then they stay calm as well, and then you kind of work towards a solution. So we have a lovely sunset with a kite up, Portland Bill ahead of us, making great speed for the last couple hours because we also had the tide with us. It finishes in sight.
We don't sleep really. When the crew is wet, you go inside the boat and stay 15 minutes on a berth, but you don't sleep really. Upwind, we stay on the rail, but we can sleep on the rail also. I slept half an hour at the end of the race.
Yeah, we're really chuffed to be here on the dock as line honor winner from this year's Myth of Mellon. We are class winner in RSC 0 against our Admiral's Cup competitors. Yes, they bailed out after the start. They weren't quite as ready as we are, but we see it as a strong point, you know. They have a bigger step to take, and we sailed an awesome race. Everything in one piece, good teamwork. And it's amazing to think about all the boats that are at the start line and you finish at first. I mean, that never really happens to us very often in big races like this. So we're really pleased. I'm very proud of my team.
For many of us, it's the first time in such an event. So yeah, we are happy to take the line honors, and I think we can be quite proud about that.
So we finished 7 o'clock in the morning. And now we're heading to the Needles, heading back to Portsmouth.
For us, it's the preparation of the fastnet, so it's very important to come. It was perfect.
So the results, Bravo Zulu RORC.
Yeah, nice film.
And the squadron, nice on their RORC TV channel, which I commend to you. And their big anniversary year, their 100th anniversary year, we will be celebrating the Rourke on and off all year. And as Ed Worley says, cold, wet, and tired. We do this for fun. And Gordon Smith saying, yeah, impressive fleet and event indeed.
Yeah.
Julia, shall we go back? I have managed to grab a picture of Anna Tunnicliffe, who was the references in the chat.
Yeah.
About her, and let me go grab that picture. She on Sailing, not Sailing Illustrated, Sports Illustrated has an issue. They used to have the swimsuit issue.
Yeah.
And then they got, maybe they still do, and then they got smart and started putting athletes and showing nude discreet. I mean, these are, they're safe for work, I suppose. And this is Anna sailing her laser, of course, the Olympic medalist from our country. And as I said, has got to be the most fit sailor I've ever seen, male or female. She just is fabulous. And that was in Sports Illustrated some years ago.
It's
and maybe others.
actually beautiful.
Oh, you like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a great shot. So that, I thought we'd run that little shot, Julia, for you. Sunscreen Illustrated, Gordon Smith is asking. Indeed, we do get off on tangents sometime, but bravo Zulu to the Rourke, and also bravo Zulu to this outfit. Now, this is here, if you're sailing in the States, you will know, and maybe outside of the States, Storm Trysail Club, which is a terrific club, more or less in the Northeast. And on Memorial Day weekend, they run a race that starts at noon on Friday and goes out around Block Island, which is in Rhode Island Sound. It's just south of Rhode Island. You take it to starboard and go back into the Sound. Sanford Yacht Club. There is the start-finish point right there. And you go out around BI, as we call it, Block Island, take it to starboard. But the race is tricky because, no pun intended, you're going through an area that they call the race. And the tides and currents going in and out of there are tricky, to say the least. And that's what makes that race in part so attractive. It's been going on Memorial Day weekend for a lot of years. And one of our Super FOSI managed to snap some shots for us. This, of course, Rick Bannerow, who's now got a little, I talked to him yesterday, a little raspy voice because I think he's been out on his photo boat bouncing around in Long Island Sound and God knows where else. But the Block Island race was first held in 1946. It also serves as a qualifier for various events here in North America on the East Coast. The Block Island race is also a qualifier for Caper, Segola, and Wendigo trophies awarded by the YRA, that means Yacht Racing Association of Long Island Sound. That's all the clubs in and around the Sound here, and both shores, both on the Long Island side and also on the Connecticut shore. And the Tuna Trophy, which is named after the late, great Arthur Woolschlager, who was a colleague of mine in the America's Cup campaign, 1987, for New York Yacht Club. And it is just a fantastic race and a tradition on the East Coast to kick off the summer sailing season, Memorial Day weekend. Here's just a few of Rick Bannerow's shots. Stormy Petrel, who was fifth in Class 5, racing under the PHRF rule, and some other of his great shots. It was a little light starting out, but the breeze did fill in. And we love it when Rick takes these pictures that he sends. I don't use a lot. It's not a lot. I don't use every shot he sends us, and he sends us a bunch, and they're, without exception, fantastic. And maybe it's time, Julia, to get Rick back on the show.
Yeah.
With his latest collection of images and some videos as he took this past weekend. I love this, the bow check. And there, Larry Kennedy is Oak Cliff's Temptation and Art Santry on Temptation. And as Larry is, I think, telling us in the chat, Temptation was first in Class 9, sailing under ORC. And just a terrific event all around, captured by Rick Bannerow. And here is another video.
Truly, I'm a savant because, in fact, no one on this race got heat stroke. It was, luckily on my boat, and I'm sure on all these well-provisioned boats, everybody had the right kind of clothes, so everybody's comfortable, but it was chilly.
We had a lighter forecast. Breeze came in beautifully. We had an outgoing tide. It was a little bit rough on the way back, but there was plenty of breeze. I only wish it had gone right a little sooner, but everybody was finished by 7 o'clock this morning. And I'm very, very happy.
It was fantastic. It was really fun. 20 hours of beating through chop is not great.
The start, that went really well. That was fun. And when we rounded 1 BI, we kept the kite up and we made tracks 2 knots faster than other boats for 20 minutes. It was fabulous.
We probably did about 1,000 jives up until we got to 1 BI. And I think we did the most incredible peel. We're very proud of our crew work at 1 BI. We did a really great peel.
So after we rounded Block Island and coming back through the race, we had a ton of wind, which is 20 to 25 knots of wind out of the west. And we saw the tide going for us, so it was a real short chop. but going 9 knots or 10 knots with the current, we plowed through that like it was standing still.
And it was crazy. We put up some nice sails, and fortunately we didn't have to change sails anymore, but you couldn't do anything on the boat except sail the boat in 15 to 30. You know, the waves were short, they were high, and the boat was pounding like crazy, but we were going fast. And we were going faster than a lot of the competition, so that was good.
When Zigzag passed us coming into the finish, and we knew it was game on, our heart rate was going pretty quickly, and we worked really hard just to stay in touch, and we got it at the end. It was pretty exciting.
We were doing well at the finish, but we didn't realize that we were the first PHRF boat to finish. And I've never done that in my 40 years of sailboat racing.
It was a great class, one of the, I'd say, the most competitive classes we've had doing the block island race in a few years.
We had a great crew who I met through the IOR, and they are a crew from Canada looking for a boat, and I'm a boat owner looking for a crew. So we matched up, and they came and you know, raced the boat with me, and we got a 3rd place. So we're all in our class, so we're all very happy with that.
Today it was a lot of effort, and we never gave up. We paid a lot of attention to the tides.
The thing that made a difference was just never giving up. You know, everybody makes mistakes, and you make a mistake, and you just got to kind of put it behind you and keep on going.
Really good ORC. The scoring method we used, WRS, seemed to be very fair for everybody.
This has to be my at least 35th or 36th Block Island race. And we keep coming back for more. Storm Trysail does a great job at the race management end of it. We always get a good participation level, and it's an exciting challenge.
Julia, you're smiling. When that guy came on, how old do you think he is? He's done what, 30 some odd? How many did he say? 35 of these?
Yeah.
That's great. I love it. The video is great. Both clubs,
they are, by
getting a lot of people involved. I mean, the race starts noon Friday. They ended, most of the boats were back by 0700, 0800 Saturday morning. They relax at Stamford Yacht Club, Stamford, Connecticut, on the North Shore of Long Island Sound. And it's just, you know, it's what our beloved sport is all about, right?
You're right.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Great stuff. Bravo Zulu Storm Trysail Club and Bravo Zulu RORC for those, and those kinds of regattas, I'm sure, are going on all over, at least this country, if not the world.
Yes.
On at least in the Northern Hemisphere this time of year. And, of course, they're still sailing down under, too, because it's nice
that's
year.
What they do.
It's nice year-round down there, Julia.
Yes.
Speaking of nice year-round, we have our Coach's Corner from a nice guy, one of the nicest guys I know in our sport, John Emmett. Coaching Corner from our Super FOSI, Sir John. We have to start calling him Sir John, I think, Julia. And he raced in a Masters event in Belgium over the weekend, and now I think he's in Holland. Not sure what he's doing in Holland. Here's his video.
Hi, Tom, Julia, and all the FOSI. I'm not sure if you can tell from my background, but I'm in Belgium. So it's been fantastic to join the ILCA Masters here at one of the European events. Belgium, just a quick hop, skip and a jump coming here, and it's been a really, really welcoming event. So we're going to head to the clubhouse so you can see what it's like. All these events put together by volunteers, and a little shout out for volunteers. So if you're a federation or class association or even the governing body, when people are volunteering and trying to help, it's really important to make it as easy as possible. And that shout out goes especially to paid members of staff. You know, when people are trying to do something to help you, just make it as easy as possible. And that's the way to get more volunteers. So I jumped on a ferry on Friday and I'm here Saturday, Sunday, Monday. You might be able to tell it's a bit windy, so we didn't actually race today. And that's one of the key things. We talk a lot about venues and what's a good venue and what's a bad venue, but any venue can be unlucky with the wind, whether it's too windy, too light. I mean, here in the North Sea, it's amazing sailing with those big, big waves. But the storm current, crikey, Yesterday it was a long beat back in. But any venue can be unlucky with the weather conditions. Of course, we want to choose venues where sailing is likely to happen, but just to have a little bit of understanding for those people who try and put on an event. So today I was really pleased we had an early decision. About 8 o'clock they told us there was going to be no racing, so that meant people could be tourists. And then the social aspect of sailing is incredibly important. So this is what a Masters event looks like. We've got some food over here. Earlier on we had free beer, and everyone sat down enjoying their dinner, and I'm going to go and join them.
Look at this shot here. He took a photo at the end. They're all waving to the FOSI.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, terrific stuff. Banner was saying in the chat, replying to Pedro Foiling Sailor, and here I was saying that they were my gremlins. The skipper come on at 40 years of age, 40 years of BI racing, rather. That guy we were talking about, Julie, at the end, is Commodore Lenny Sitar, past Commodore of the Storm Tricycle Club and owner of Cougar, a J160.
Oh, good. It's good to know that.
So nice to know that. Bravo, Zulu, John. Great report. Appreciate it very much. And we've been saying at the end of John's reports, because he's been leading the charge, we want to get parasailing reinstated for Brisbane 2032. A lot of you have already written. Those of you in Australia are putting pressure on the organizing committee. Thank you very much. But since our show number 805 in January, late January, when John had a panel discussion on parasailing, we have been saying how important it is to get parasailing back in the games as a demonstration event for 2032, and then hopefully with success, a successful event, we'll be back in the Paralympics permanently.
Didn't John win that race that he was just
He
in?
did. I believe he won. I think Alistair said at the top of the show in the chat that John had won that Masters. But, I mean, he wins most Masters or events, world and otherwise, that he's sailing in.
Yeah.
You know, we don't just have any croutons on this show, Julia. We have good sailors.
We have croutons.
We have croutons hosting it,
Yeah.
but at least me. But
Me? Oh, well,
we have good
I am.
sailors here.
Yeah.
More international events back in the games. Absolutely. Outside of the Roaring 40s is the North Sea right up there, indeed. Belgian beer, frites and mules, mussels and frites. Yes, indeed. We are also, at the end of John's report, reminding everyone that we still don't have the final decision, although I keep hearing from our friends in and around Long Beach and LA, for that matter, that the 2028 Olympic venue is looking, knock on wood,
yes,
more and more like it is going to be where it should be, which is right off that Belmont Veterans Memorial Pier in Long Beach, which is where Congressional Cup is held. Long Beach is correct. And that venue, which is the Port of LA in San Pedro, if you haven't already, ping World Sailing CEO David.Graham at sailing.org and give him a piece of your mind, because I can't yet find anybody on here, Julia, who thinks it's better to have the Olympics in San Pedro, or San Pedro if you speak Spanish. But the Angelinos all say San Pedro for some reason.
If they are sort of afraid to tell you because...
Yeah, well, it's not correct. And let's continue to put the pressure on. Hopefully this announcement is coming. Stingray's teasing me. He says, one here, San Pedro is nice. No, it's not very nice. It's a port. It's industrial. There's a big prison on Terminal Island. It's not correct. So keep the pressure on. And thanks, John Emmett, for your regular reportage. John Emmett Sailing. Get to the front of the fleet. Superb Olympic coach and more that he is. We got a FOSI focus coming up here, Julia.
Okay.
I thought we should have just a quick focus on one of our FOSI cool people, Friends of Sailing Illustrated is what a FOSI really is. This is a video from an Instagram page called Send It Co. And they've got, I just discovered it thanks to one of you who sent me this. In fact, I'm not even sure who several of you did, but who sent this originally. But on Instagram.com/senditco, and you have to use the underscore at the end, because if you don't use the underscore, I noticed it takes you to some other page. Senditco _, and it's an Australian Instagram page that has short, reels, clips about sailing, including this one taken from some motorboat, some people who actually got in the way of our FOSI sailing on Raggan Famish Hotel, the Sydney Harbor 18. And it's a marvelous video at once as also a bit scary. Have a look. Listen to this. You hear them start shouting when they get in their way. Harry Price, of course, and co.
Hey, watch out, watch out, watch out! Jesus!
So I don't know who the powerboat was.
I know.
But and I don't know what that little gesture is from the sheet hand there in the middle. But they don't look like they were amused, Julia.
No.
I don't blame them. But again, that's a pretty cool Instagram page, and I will be watching them carefully for other reels, other shorties like that, videos, and good fun. And our FOSI of our FOSI, a video of our FOSI.
Yes.
Harry Price,
indeed,
who was runner-up in the big Sydney Harbor 18 Intergalactic Championship.
Who won that? Do we know?
Yeah, we do. We covered that, but I've forgotten. You asked me, and now you expect me to come up with the name.
I do.
You're embarrassing me on purpose.
Well, you remember everything.
Oh God! Not after a power outage. I think I had a power outage too, Julia. Somebody will put it in the chat.
Yeah.
But it was.
Well, Harry Price is important that we remember. So that's okay.
Well, I would have run the video if it was one of the other teams, but the fact that it was Harry Price, I could run it as a FOSI focus.
Yes, indeed.
Because I like saying, using alliterative.
Yes.
FOSI focus.
Fuzzy FOSI.
Let's get to this day in history. Yesterday, at least, the 27th of May, I prepared this, and I was frankly too lazy to prepare another one, Julia, for today.
Yes.
What happened on this yesterday, 27th of May, in 1940?
Oh.
You want a clue? Here's your first clue.
I was going to say it's some big invasion. Oh, yeah, D-Day.
No.
No.
The opposite of D-Day.
Yeah.
1940, not 19. What was D-Day? 44?
Yeah.
43 or 44?
Landing on the coast.
No. The miracle of Dunkirk happened on this yesterday, on the 27th. 85 years ago, a long time, hard to believe. Dunkirk, Ed Worley was the first to get it there in the chat. The German invasion of France proceeded with unprecedented speed in May of 1940, catching the French and British expeditionary force off guard. The German hook through France from the Ardennes had trapped more than 300,000 British troops and others on the beaches at the port of Dunkirk on France's northern coast, as well as Belgian and French troops. The decision to halt an immediate attack on the British troops by the Nazis, by the Germans, has been the subject of much speculation, including the unfounded assertion that Hitler did not want to destroy the Allied troops so that he could still had a hope of negotiating a peace deal with London. In reality, history tells us that German commanders are worried about supply lines and the potential effect on tanks operating in that area. Attacking the troops, therefore, was left to the Luftwaffe. Luftwaffe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, in any case, the ground troops were ordered on the move again on the 28th of May, 4 days after the halt order. And in the meantime, the delay gave the Allies time to prepare an evacuation. In 8 days, over 320,000 troops were evacuated by a combination of naval ships and hundreds of merchant marine leisure vessels, including sailboats, and other civilian boats that became known as the Little Ships of Dunkirk.
The
Dunkirk, little ships came in all shapes and sizes and all types, from motor cruisers to sailing yachts to those from the commercial fleet. This is the fishing boat Coronia, built in New Lynn in 1927. From then until 1933, she worked out of St Ives, netting pilchards. She went to Dunkirk in 1940, rescuing people from the beaches, and was then called up to the Royal Navy, serving until the end of the war. Troubled times after that, a bit of pirate operations before finally returning to Dunkirk in 2005 and going on to star in the 2016 film all about Dunkirk.
So she's 102, she was built in 1923 in Leigh-on-Sea in Essex. So she's designed for certainly the estuary waters. .26 foot in length and 2'10" draft. I don't know how many times she does it backwards and forwards, but that's what the really little boats did. They were taxiing the troops from the beaches to the big ships.
These are some of the Royal Navy's P2000s. The one I'm on is HMS Express, and that name is very special within the Royal Navy. And by calling this P2000 Express, it keeps alive the memory of the Royal Navy's bravery during the evacuation of Dunkirk.
HMS Express holds the battle honour of Dunkirk in 1940. So that would have been one of our predecessors. It's a really proud time for the ship's company. Show that link between civilian mariners and the Royal Navy is still as strong as ever.
This wonderful paddle steamer from 1924 is the Medway Queen, and the great news is she's being restored. She had a huge role to play in Dunkirk, rescuing over 7,000 troops from the beaches. And after that, her history became fascinating too, because at the end of her service life, she was going to be scrapped and went to Belgium. But the Belgian shipyard, when they found out that this was the Medway Queen, who'd rescued so many from the beaches and became known as the heroine of Dunkirk, they said, no, we're not going to scrap her. So she was saved, became a nightclub on the Isle of Wight until 1985, and as I say, is now being restored to her former glory. And what a wonderful ship this is to look at and to remember what it must have been like to be on the beaches of Dunkirk. Imagine seeing this and thinking, wow, salvation's here.
Yeah, Alan Long, it is hard to imagine, isn't it? Yachtsmen, as Ed Worley is saying, saved Great Britain. Indeed, they did. The little ships, Gordon Smith says, were essential as the larger Navy vessels couldn't get close enough to shore. Indeed. Mm-hmm. And they have an annual get-together, Gordon is also telling. I think I covered this on either last year's show or the year before, Julia. We covered this. And Ed Worley is saying 800 private yachts. The little ships saved thousands of troops.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Something like 320,000?
They did. Yeah, it was 85 years ago yesterday. Now, you know what happened today? Did you see the comment from Blake Middleton in the chat? Back in, before you were born, Julia?
No.
Yes. Golden Gate Bridge opened. Golden Gate Bridge opened.
Oh, I knew that.
Well, then why didn't you say it?
Because I was thinking about Germany.
Today in 1937, the Golden Gate Bridge opened to pedestrian traffic. So that was the miracle of Dunkirk yesterday, 85 years ago. It's hard to believe. Mm-hmm. We are we are farther away now from World War II than we are from the year 2100. Only 75 years to 2100. that war, which defined our generation, maybe not some of the younger people on here.
Yeah.
Defined our generation, the Cold War that followed. But the miracle of Dunkirk, this day in history, 27th of May, 1940.
I was looking when I shouldn't have been to see when my father was there, where he was at that time, and he was on land in England.
He was?
Mm-hmm.
Well, so much for that. Let's get to another war, the War of the America's Cup. And to say call it a war is perhaps a bit of an overstatement, but it is a mess, to be sure. Figure out a way to fund the Team New Zealand. They're still the best sailors on the water until somebody else proves them otherwise, and they would probably still win the cup even if they didn't have the grand funding that's now apparently accruing to them from Naples and from Rome. Just, but the fact that that country didn't get the cup in 2024 and had kind of a half-baked, I should say. It wasn't half-assed by any stretch, but it was half-baked in terms of participation from abroad. And even within the, remember they kept having interruptions? There was racing scheduled, and then the PM would lock the country down or lock Auckland down for a week or two, and then they had to kind of postpone.
Because of COVID.
Talk about a postponement flight because of COVID. And then, of course, Mr. Dalton moved the event for 2024 to Barcelona, and now it's in Naples, as you all know. And we featured that on Friday's show. Italy to host the Louis Vuitton 38th America's Cup in the city of Naples in 2027, and so was the announcement from Team New Zealand last week. The government of Italy, in conjunction with Team New Zealand and the RNZ gets a mention there, are pleased to announce Italy as the host country and Naples as the host city for the LV 38th America's Cup to be held in the spring and summer of 2027, just 2 years hence. In fact, less than 2 years from now, Julia.
Yes.
The America's Cup has normally been in 3-year cycles or 4-year cycles. Since the modern era, since 58.
Then we must take an Elon Musk attitude.
Which is?
He can always speed things up.
Can always speed things up. But getting the cup ready and giving challengers times to get organized.
Rockets had never flown before. You do it. He can't do it. You can't do it. You can't do it. And he says, yes, you can.
Well, and he flew another one today, right?
Yeah.
But he's worth, approaching $300 billion. So he can do things that other people can't. I don't blame Mr. Dalton for trying to be sure his team is well funded. But the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron should have insisted that the event be in New Zealand, and will help you find the money, not only for the event, which the government was willing to help this time, again, and we'll help you fund the team, yada, yada.
Yep.
The cup since, even the 30s, it was 1930, 1934, 1937. So a 3 or a 4 year cycle, shall we say. Then it was 1958, 1960. I'm doing this from memory, so if I screw up, somebody put it in the chat.
58, 62.
58, 62. Then there was a 2-year cycle to 64. Now, these are all in Newport, all these events.
Yeah.
Then 67, that's a 3-year cycle. Then 70, 3 years. Then 74, a 4-year cycle. 77, a 3-year cycle. 80, 3-year cycle. 83, 3-year cycle. 87, it changed hemispheres. It changed venues. It left Newport and went to Perth. And that was 4 years, so a little less than 4 years, because it was in September of 83 and it was in early part of 80, late 86, 87. So they got that. But they didn't change the class either. So that was 87. Then we had the aberration in 88, forced by the whole deed of gift madness, 88. Yes. But then the next event was 92, then 95. So you had a 4-year cycle and a 3-year cycle. Then a 5-year, a little bit less than, because it changed hemisphere again. The Kiwis won in 95. It went to Auckland in 2000. But it was early in Auckland and late. It was May in San Diego in 95. So it was just a little less than 5 years. So they could redo the so-called log farm and prepare the viaduct and get all that facility ready. And how many teams in all of these events, since at least
Lots.
83, give or take 10 teams.
Yeah.
17 in Perth in 83.
Yeah.
And I submit to you, Commodores, ladies and gentlemen, that it's the number of teams and the number of countries and the number of sailors and the number of support crew and staff and team that really makes the cup these days, and has. So what's happened since then? Well, even after 2000, it was 03.
Yeah.
Then it went to Europe, and it was 07, a 4-year cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Then after 07, we had the deed of gift match in 2010.
Yeah.
And then 3 years after that, we had 2013 here in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
Then it went to Bermuda, sadly. It's a disaster. And it was my fault. Point to me again, Julia. I didn't have camera 3 on. Go ahead and do it again.
It's yours.
My fault. I quit.
I know.
The Vice Commodore Golden Gate Yacht Club when Larry and Russell took it to Bermuda, but it was still a 3-year cycle.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And then it was a 4-year cycle from 2017 to 2021, and then a 3-year cycle from 2021 to 2024. And now they're trying to do it in, now that they've finally gotten around to it, it sounds like a 3-year cycle, but it's really shorter than that.
Yeah.
Late in 2024,
and
early in 2027.
And we don't know the yacht yet?
Well, we know the yacht's going to be the AC-75, but massively changed.
Yeah.
Massively changed. It's going to be our sport under this draft protocol, final draft, it's really not the final draft. Under this protocol, the cup has gone from human power only
to no human
power. And we're going to cover all that in the upcoming slides here. Okay, so there is the new PM who's going to get a lot of attention. And she is Giorgia Maloney. She is the primo ministro, and I've checked with my Italian friends, Julia, and it is masculine. Primo ministro is always, whether female or male, it's always masculine.
That's always.
And it's, your women compadres aren't going to think you're, if you took your mic off, we can't hear you. Your headset's off, Julia. You got to fix your hair. Okay, I'm going to turn your mic off so we don't have, there you go. Are you okay?
Yeah.
There you go. Now we can hear you. So it's Il Primo Ministro, and thank you to Victor Felice, who is Maltese, but speaks Italian fluently.
Of course.
And my daughter Meg, who also speaks Italian, at least has a working knowledge.
Yes.
And confirmed that for us. And she's played a big role in this.
Mm-hmm.
And so much so that the Pradites, Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli, put this, we told you on Friday, put this graphic, this ad really, in the Italian media. Naples is unfurling its sails. It will host the AC. Thank you, Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
Grazie, Georgia. The only other team that has expressed any interest and support are the French team, Stéphane Candler of the Orient Express team. He's the chairman, co-CEO. And he said, we gave you this quote Friday, we already knew the boats would be the AC-75s. And as you and I discussed, Julia, heavily modified. These boats, you're taking the cyclers out.
Yeah.
You're not going to reprise the existing boats. You're not going to do what has happened in the 12-meter era where somebody bought an old 12-meter, did some mods, and then it went out and won again like Courageous did.
Right.
Or Intrepid, or, it's not going to happen. Because the cyclers are coming out, and the whole weight and balance of the boat's going to change, and the rules are still changing. So the French are saying, we therefore have acquired, unlike other editions where a blank page had to be handed out, we've acquired the announcement today of the venue, and we know the class, and we are now, quote, search for funding with our partners so that a French challenger is present at the oldest international competition and can battle to report. I think this is a French Google Trans battle to report, meaning through the media, this prestigious trophy in our country.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we told you also on Friday's show, thanks to Stingray, that there was going to be these rollouts. There was very little publicity about this until it must have been very rapidly put together. And Stingray informed us, and we ran it on Friday's show, that there would be 2 presentations on Monday, meaning 2 days ago, in Rome.
Mm-hmm.
And then there'd be another one on Wednesday morning, today, in Naples at the Castel dell'Ovo. And in fact, those happened. Thank you, Stingray, for those 2 tips.
Yes.
And of course, we have photos and even some video from those events. This being Monday in Rome, there are the mayor of Naples on the left. There's Mr. Dalton, the great man himself, the prime minister, and her minister of youth and sports. There, I believe, is his title on the right, as the prime minister, Meloni, welcomes the Louis Vuitton 38th America's Cup at a stunning ceremony in Rome on Monday. And this from the AC38, the America's Cup Louis Vuitton website, these photos and the following prose. With the dome of St. Peter's Basilica in the background, the centerpiece of the Vatican, Gaetano Manfredi, the mayor of Naples, gave a warm welcome to the audience that included a significant number of national and international journalists, including our super FOSI Magnus the Magnificent, across broadcast, print, and multimedia, saying, quote, "On behalf of the city, today is a truly special day because New Zealand's choice to defend the America's Cup in Naples represents a great privilege and opportunity for our city," the mayor said. Not the mayor of Rome, the mayor of Naples. "I am very grateful to the team that the team, not the club, the team that chose Naples." Should have been the club. "I am very thankful to the government, President Meloni, and all the ministers of sport and health with whom we have worked to build this over the past months. The spirit with which we are taking up this opportunity," the mayor went on to say, "together with the government," is meaning the central government in Rome, "is the spirit of being able to face this great challenge, a challenge that represents Naples." Really? Speaking about the area designated for redevelopment, Bagnoli, we've been telling you about this. It's an old industrial site that had a steel plant, I'm not sure, a shipbuilding plant that employed something like 10,000 people. And they apparently took Bagnoli, which is around the corner, which supposedly is where they're going to build the team bases. They capped it with concrete because there's lead and arsenic and asbestos and God knows what else. Like one of these, what we called here in this country in the 70s, a Superfund site, a toxic waste site. And in Italy, they just capped it over with concrete. Now they're going to try to remediate it and build team bases in less than 2 years, Julia. Well,
they will.
We'll see. So we are transforming Bagnoli, the last sentence, into a beautiful place, building Naples's tomorrow.
You know,
and
that
David James, tongue-in-cheek, is saying Naples is well known for rapid development without any corruption. We should talk here in California, David, because California's got all sorts of problems, too, when it comes to development.
But the Italians do things with style.
They do. Everything they do, almost everything they do, is with style, including both of these announcements. These were fabulous. And we can go back and talk about the presentation of the 2000, we ultimately became the 2000, back in 83, we can go all the way back to the Yacht Club Costa Smeralda's Azzurra Challenge. I mean, class and style and dignity and grace. And remember, those of you who were involved in the 86-87 Cup down in Frio, the 2 Italian teams got down there and saw that there were no really high-end Italian restaurants in each of those teams.
Therefore,
the Yacht Club Italiano and the Yacht Club Costa Smeralda each brought in their own chefs, their own foodstuffs, and opened restaurants of considerable repute. We ate there as often as possible. They were expensive, but they were great.
But they were really built, especially for the teams.
Well,
teams
not really. They were built for the general public.
I
but
know.
Yes, you're right. The teams could have their...
but they didn't have any good food except for this.
Well, there's plenty of good food in WA.
I know.
Not plenty of good Italian food, but
that's
there was,
correct.
At least not by their standards. And then if those of you who were around for the launch of the Il Moro di Venezia's, I mean, the first launch of their first boat, the launch of their first boat in Venice, in Venezia, in whatever year that was, leading up to the 92 Cup, so that would have been 89, was astonishing. I mean, they had all the, what do you call those guys that row the, come on, help me, the Venetian.
God,
Gondolaman.
Yeah, gondola.
They had, I mean, it was just and fireworks, and it was just an astonishing party. And everything Luna Rosa Prada Pirelli has done has been
perfect.
Perfect.
I know it has.
Perfect taste and style.
We should all take lessons.
Dignity and grace.
Yeah.
And I don't doubt for a minute that this event is going to be, because, again, we were there in Naples. I said the other day on the show we were Challenger of Record. We were actually the Defender. And I was head of the Challenger Commission. The Defender ran 2 events there, 2012 and 2013, was it? For pre-regattas, for lead-ups in the AC 45s. And those events, I emceed the public stage in the village for the morning shows. I had Italian helpers with me, Niccolo Porzio and Andrea Tagliamaco and Andrea's girlfriend. And we were gobsmacked by the number of people that showed up. And then the prize giving was one of the most amazing prize givings, both of them, on that stage in the village, in the village, in
Naples.
Gondoliers. Thank you, David James. Another guy that went to Stanford, Julia.
I needed him.
He had to help you out.
He did.
Come up with Gondoliers. Yes, Luna Rosa has always been a class act, Ed Worley. Absolutely right. And these presentations, both in Rome and in Naples, we'll show you in a moment, they were fabulous. And look at this. This is a video, which I'm not going to play because it's 14 or 15 minutes long. This is the presentation now still in Rome on Monday, and the stage with the Vatican in the background, and they had big screens for videos, and well attended. There's Mr. Dalton, the great man, walking up to give his speech. And I commend the video to you. It's on the AC38 website in the report. There's a link to it. It's actually on YouTube. But there's a link to it from Monday's presentation. And that is a screen grab from that 24-minute video. I beg your pardon, not 16:14. Mm-hmm. So that is in Rome on Monday. And there's Mr. Dalton's speech there in Rome. And he said, he's tagged here as the joint CEO of Defender, Emirates, Team New Zealand, and the CEO of America's Cup Events, a conflict of interest if ever there was one.
Yes.
He echoed the words, and has been for now 3 cups in a row, echoed the words of the mayor saying, quote, Naples is passion. Naples is history, and it is our honor to bring the America's Cup to Naples. Thank you for your vision and for the opportunity to bring the cup to Italy. He further highlighted the benefits, saying, quote, the America's Cup, as we've seen in recent events, becomes a catalyst for redevelopment. Well, some cases. Mm-hmm. Before also highlighting the passionate support of the America's Cup in Italy, saying, quote, 25% of the media at the last America's Cup was consumed in Italy. I believe that too. Dalton went on to praise and name the 12 America's Cup challenges that have come from Italy, starting with the famous Azzurra campaign, 1983, and running through to the last event in 2024. Yeah, all true. And I'm sure it was magnificent. And if you read Magnus the Magnificent's, Magnus Wheatley's reportage in his Rule 69 blog, he is very effusive in his praise of both the event in Rome on Monday. In fact, even over the top a bit. But then, he works for Mr. Dalton.
Yes.
Or he did, and presumably will in the next one, Julia. But we still love him, right?
Absolutely.
Huh?
Yeah.
I do anyway. Do you love him? Magnus the Magnificent?
Yeah.
Okay, let's carry on here with Rome on Monday. Then the Primo Ministro spoke. Prime Minister Maloney set out a bold vision for the regeneration planned around the Louis Vuitton 38th America's Cup, saying, quote, I am sure that this event will contribute to strengthening a leading role of the South. Now, remember, she runs for election right after the Cup. And Italy, like in this country, we said this on Friday's show, this country has a reputation for being run by New York, Washington, New York, Boston, the Northeast, power centers, and same in Italy. That, the reputation is that Italy is run by Rome and Milano. Mm-hmm. And not a lot of attention paid to the South. So you watch how much attention the Primo Ministro gives the South.
Right.
And she says, I am sure that this event will contribute to strengthening a leading role of the South that in recent years has been able to rediscover its dynamism and its pride. A South that is no longer at the bottom of the class, but that is becoming the driving force of Italian development. Dynamic, ambitious, and attractive to investment and full, Julia, of voters.
And you know what else I just thought of?
What?
Less expensive. 2 years is less expensive than 3 years.
Exactly. It's the burn rate is give or take, several $100,000 a month. And when you get up close to the cup, it's several $1 million a month for the bigger teams. So by shortening the period,
yep,
it's
is a third cheaper.
Well, it's less money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Stingray's talking about the snafus in Bagnoli. We'll talk about the snafus in due course, not today. She went on to say, that is the Prime Minister, it is an opportunity that we want to leave a long-term, deep, and lasting mark on our nation, and therefore we obviously have many initiatives in mind. We want to bring sailing into schools. We want to integrate it with teaching of scientific and technological disciplines. Therefore, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, STEM, and also combine scientific training and sporting experience.
Nice.
So far, I've heard a lot about people, and you'll hear more about people and media and money. I haven't heard a lot about sailing and about sailors and teams.
Or boats.
Or boats. Good point, Julia. At the end of that session in Rome, the great man gave a model of the Kiwi boat of Te Horo. After the formalities, the Prime Minister was presented with a scale model of Te Horo, the winning boat of Emirates Team New Zealand in 2024. So a nice way to wrap that up. The Prime Minister did not go to Naples. And as I said, there were none of the teams in Rome as far as I am aware, but Magnus was there covering it. And we'll talk a little bit about what he did. Then this photo, which I love, and I used as our cover photo.
Yeah.
Obviously taken in Rome as well, as was this one. And she's...
Oh, I didn't see that.
Don't you love that?
Oh, poor thing.
I assume, to be fair, Julia, I assume that she's just been, the cup is not, it's big.
Yeah.
Maybe not as big as she'd hoped. I don't know. But maybe it was bigger than she expected and heavier.
Yes, I'm sure it is.
And
yeah.
she's maybe grimacing because of the weight. Maybe she's worried about dropping it. Maybe she's worried about handling it with her bare hands, knowing that the silver. Look, we don't get excited about people touching the cup with their bare hands for no reason. There's a real reason to that, is that the silver is so old, 1848. And that silver is so thin that the oils and grease and dirt on your hands, microscopic or otherwise, affects the surface of the cup. And that's why you've seen it being held by gloved hands, cotton gloves, kid gloves, in modern times. Now maybe that's not the real cup. Maybe don't tell the Italians. Maybe that is a replica cup. I don't know, Julia. One never knows. So they moved on today, Wednesday, down to Naples, and there in the background is the famous Castel, the castle. I don't know, Greg Phillips, if that's the real cup or a copy. I don't know. If Magnus is on here, maybe he will tell us whether it is. But Wednesday in Naples, they had another ceremony, an even bigger one, a lot of media, and it was a big deal. The city of Naples welcomes the Louis Vuitton 38th America's Cup in style at the official host venue presentation. The ceremony was held at the Castel dell'Ovo, which means Castle of the Egg, because that is the birthplace, Julia. It's seen as the birthplace of Naples. That castle is old.
Okay.
Set on the tough peninsula of, I don't know how to say that. It's from the Greek. Formerly named Majaris by the Greeks, one of the most iconic symbols of Naples, along with Mount Vesuvius, which is background left. That's what's back here and up in this direction.
Last time I sailed past, it was gulping smoke.
Well, that thing on and off, but it's gonna. What's that thing over your ear, Julia? I got to remember to clear the draw before I switch cameras here. So that's Vesuvius there on the left side of that slide, and it was an outstanding setting according to the official press release for the official host venue presentation. I assume Magnus wrote this of the Louis Vuitton 38th America's Cup, unveiling the next chapter in the Cup's 174-year-old history with the warmest of receptions for the defender, Emirates Team New Zealand.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there were a couple other challengers there. Notably, the Italians were represented with a couple people and some of their young sailors. And there were maybe one or two representatives. I believe Miss Stefan Candler was there representing the French, but not more than that.
Mm-hmm.
Here's something about the castle I thought you would enjoy.
On the ancient islet of Megaride, the imposing Castel dell'Ovo, Castle of the Egg, stands, the oldest castle in Naples. The structure is based on a single massive block of tufa, the typical local brownish rock, that was hollowed out to build the lower part. By means of the stone extracted, the upper walls were subsequently raised. According to the Greek historian Strabon, the ancient history of Naples began in the 9th century before Christ, right on the island of Megaride, with a small settlement of Greek colonists. The Roman general Lucullus Licinius built here his beautiful villa, whose foundations are still embedded in the castle. Castel dell'Ovo owes its name to an evocative legend. The poet Virgil had hidden an egg suspended in a cage in the dungeons of the building. As long as the egg stays intact, the castle and the city of Naples would not be destroyed. The castle affords beautiful views. On its sunny terraces you can admire Vesuvius on the south, the islands of the Gulf of Naples, the hill of Posillipo, the hill of Vomero with Castel Sant'Elmo. At the foot of Castel dell'Ovo, Borgo Marinari livens up, a small area with restaurants and shops.
Okay, nice video from the Comune di Napoli, the greater region of Naples, on their web TV channel on YouTube that I found this morning. I thought you would enjoy that. Did you like that, Julia?
Yes, I did. It's nice. Yes.
And Magnus is saying, yes, it was the original cup. Of course, he would say, I'm not saying Magnus is not telling the truth, but he would have to say it's the real cup, whether or not it is.
Right.
And there is a secret mark on the cup that only,
a few of us now.
Used to be only a few of us knew about it, but probably quite a few more now know about it. The cup having been bashed and redone and so on. So there was a big ceremony there, and the local officials and some of the government officials from Rome were there as well. Speakers of the event included the mayor and the Minister for Youth and Sport from Rome, Andrea Abodi. You'll hear his name a lot. And the president of Sport, E Salute, which is health, I guess, in Italian, Marco Mezzaroma, all key government and regional ministers who unveiled the event to the audience and set out a bold vision for Louis Vuitton 38th America's Cup being held for the first time in Italian waters on the stunning Bay of Napoli. The presentation, in fact, was inside the Castel, and I guess, again, Magnus was writing this, in a packed auditorium. An enormous number of enthusiastic regional and national broadcast, print, yachting, and social media journalists were in attendance, reflecting the excitement that is building right across Italy. Well, we'll see. For the America's Cup, delegates, VIPs, and representatives of state departments were greeted and seated ahead of the unveiling of the trophies, meaning the AC and also the Louis Vuitton Cup, and their travel cases, of course. Mm-hmm. This was the formal part of the presentation there on the top table. Speaking first was the mayor, one of the key architects of the bid's success, was full of enthusiasm and foresight for what is set to be a remarkable America's Cup. Remarkable in what sense, I wonder?
I think that Ernesto ought to have a cap tipped to him.
Ernesto Bertarelli?
Yeah.
You mean Patrizio Bertelli.
Yeah.
Patrizio Bertelli, no doubt. No doubt he's a big enthusiastic supporter of this. He's not well, of course, and we wish him the best of health.
I hope he gets better so he can see it.
Well, all of us do. We hope he can participate. And
yes,
be there
absolutely.
In full force. The mayor said, quote, "Thank you for choosing Naples, and to keep a secret in Naples is not something easy." In fact, they didn't. They made the announcement before Mr. Dalton could. But we've worked very well together, and we have won a huge international competition. The truth is, as some of you said, and Magnus, you can dispute this in the chat or otherwise. We'll have Magnus on to give us a more full feeling. He was there, of course. But, Greece could not do it in 2027, and Mr. Dalton want to do it badly in 2027, not 2029, which is when Greece said, I'm reliably informed, was the first time they could do it. Barcelona, you'll remember, did it last time, and Barcelona didn't want to do it again. Mm-hmm. Well, there's great benefits. It's worth $1 billion. Well, if it's worth $1 billion, why didn't Barcelona want to do it again? Well, maybe it wasn't worth quite that much, but in any event, Barcelona didn't want to do it. And it came down to what some of you said was a Hail Mary pass, an event venue anywhere, somewhere, anywhere. Although I actually do think, Julia, that Venice is a good and proper venue. Don't get me wrong.
Venice?
Venice, Naples, thank you. Venice, pretty light. There's no wind over there.
No.
To bring this event here is not a casual choice. This is a quote now from, I guess, the mayor. When the first people from Greece arrived to found the city, they said this is a place to create the future. And when Emirates Team New Zealand saw in particular Bagnoli, Bagnoli, they said this is where we need to hold the America's Cup. We are up to the challenge for our city, the mayor said, and we need to do all we can to show Naples as a great capital city, Julia, of Europe.
Yes.
Okay, so then Mr. Dalton spoke, and he said...
With his name in great letters.
Well, why not? I'm sure they had big letters up there for the other gentleman as well. Dalton went on to quote the Maori phrase, "He tangata, he tangata, he tangata," meaning the people, the people, the people. Highlighting just how, remember I told you we're going to talk more about the people.
Mm-hmm.
Highlighting just how effective the Italian bid was merging government and regional departments to secure success.
Mm-hmm.
Quote, Mr. Dalton said, "The Italian government have been amazing to deal with from this very start, setting out a vision that the America's Cup should be in Italy, and we have worked together so effectively. I honestly could not have wished for more, and we look forward to the Louis Vuitton Cup and the America's Cup here in Naples in less than 2 years' time." Indeed. Yeah, some people are critical of, I see Fritz Mueller saying, wear his suit. He does look a little bit like everybody else's. The Italians are so nicely dressed and so formal without appearing to be formal. They're just, especially the yachting crowd, the government crowd, and I've spent a lot of time to dealt with them a lot. But Mr. Dalton, he looks a little bit like Mr. Zelensky here. He not quite falling off the turnip truck or coming in from the sheep station, but you would have thought he would have tuned it up a little bit, Julia. I'm not going to criticize him though. For that, I think we got bigger fish to fry than that issue. So they had a nice presentation at the end to him, a medallion from the city. The race for the Louis Vuitton 38 America's Cup. This is the last paragraph of, again, presumably Magnus's press. By the way, the website, the 38th edition, 38th America's Cup website, like the 37th, is superb. The website is really good. It's easily readable. It's got good information. It's prompt. And, Magnus is paid to,
great
to write flowery stuff in support of the event, which you would expect, and he does.
Yes.
And presumably he wrote this sentence as well. The America's Cup is certainly well underway in the bustling city of Naples. And as Minister Abodi stated accurately, quote, "The real work starts now." Yes, indeed, it does. Yeah, and all that blue, is Alex Hayworth up in Great Britain is saying, the blue shirts match the football team in Naples, and that's the reason. And, of course, the football team just won their the Italian Series A division. I mean, they're the big deal. They had a huge celebration in Naples for that. So it is a great sporting town. And here now is a video, Julia, from Mr. Dalton that was taken by a YouTube channel. This is not official, but Mr. Dalton is again talking about the people, and that's what is the most important thing, apparently, in the America's Cup, is the local people.
This is a very special day for us and for you. And how are you and how do you feel today?
Well, I mean, I can't believe the atmosphere already, you know. I can't believe the welcome of the people and just the facilities. I mean, look out here. I mean, that's where we're going sailing, right? That's paradise. And I think it'll be the most amazing America's Cup.
If you have to choose one reason, which do you have choose Naples?
The people. The people that watched the event we had here in 2012 and 2013, the Napoli local people were amazing, best that I've ever seen, and that's the single biggest reason.
The local people, the best I've ever seen. I wonder how the people in Auckland are feeling about that right now, Julia.
I don't know, but
because they're pretty crazy about the cup down there.
Yes, indeed. And Barcelona people were not so.
Well, Barcelona's tough because they didn't have a dog in that fight. They didn't have a team, and there's no doubt Italy will be better.
Yep.
Because they've got a dog and they got a team.
Right.
Luna Rossa, presumably, Prada Pirelli. And what else do you expect? Some of you have been critical of Grant. I'm marginally critical, but what else do you expect them to say? I mean, if that were me sitting there, I would say, the local government officials, but most importantly, the people.
Right.
And he did refer to the race course as being paradise. Mm-hmm. And as I said on previous shows, I know anecdotally, I wasn't there, but in 1960, they had the Rome Olympics, the sailing Olympics, were in Napoli, in Naples. And it was light and it was reasonably flat, but we don't need good wind or sea conditions, as Bill Haynes is saying. We need just the local people. We don't need a lot of teams. We just need good local people. And again, I think that's being a little hard on Mr. Dalton because he's got to say that for local consumption, as it were. Marginally critical, yes, I'm being marginally critical. Gordon Smith is making fun of me. That video, courtesy of the Unità YouTube channel via Stingray. Thank you, Stingray, for sending me that link this morning. Inside the castle.
I love the way that looks.
Isn't it beautiful?
Yeah.
Huh?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was, as you would expect, as we saw in 2012 and 2013 when I was emceeing those events, it was also nuts. And that was the headline that Magnus used today on his Rule 69 blog, Neapolitan Nuts. And when I saw that in my email this morning at Dark 30 before Julia had had any coffee, I was wondering what he was going to talk about. And a small taster of a wonderful Naples madness that is about to come. It was MTM, Magnus the Magnificent, as we call him for short, MTM, was his subhead. But he then, and I pinged him, and I said, I thought you were over the top, Magnus, with this. No sign of the other teams, meaning the challengers. He talked about the Italians and the French being there, or at least being represented. No sign of the others, and poor show on them. Where was the Royal Yacht Squadron, the challenger of record? Pathetic, Magnus says. Pathetic in reality. I was slightly ashamed to be British. Yeah, right. I was slightly ashamed to be British, and if I'm completely honest, and if it was intended as a snub on the defender and part of some elaborate game being played behind the scenes to bully demands forward, it's a pretty poor show and reflects immensely badly on a club that has a spotless record of excellence, meaning the Royal Yacht Squadron, gentlemanly conduct, and cordiality that stretches all the way back to even before that first race in 1851. He does have a turn of phrase, Julie. Lord Yarborough and the Earl of Wilton would be shuddering at how badly and amateurish the current squadron officers are behaving at the moment. Full stop.
He's probably right.
No, he's not. He's dead wrong. And it's as I texted you, he's on watching in the comments, it's way over the top. Attacking the Royal Yacht Squadron for not having, they haven't signed the protocol yet. One is reliably informed. I checked again this morning. And AFAIK, as far as I know, And these people have serious concerns and bona fide. I mean, they have real concerns, not only the Royal Yacht Squadron, but also the New York Yacht Club and their representative teams. And of course, Ernesto Bertorelli, who's already said he's pulled out, although Magnus and others think that he's still, kicking the tires and watching the developments and still might come in. I have my doubts about that. Ed Worley is saying RYS has not signed the protocol, and why is TNZ-GD rushing to force the challengers to submit? Tell it like it is, Magnus Fritz Mueller is saying. Gordon Smith agrees. He thought that MTM was correct on this point. Well, I welcome Magnus's and anybody else's views, love them to death, and I know the audience for whom he is writing, which is probably an audience of one, although he probably is hoping to have some influence on the squadron and try to push them into challenging, but I doubt it. I suspect Magnus's prose maybe even pushes the Royal Yacht Squadron in the opposite direction. Replying to, Margarita Marshall, serious concern is a real fact. Yeah, I think there's some real concern here. Margarita Marshall, who is an America's Cup veteran, her maiden name was, or previous married name was Bottini, and I've known Margarita since at least 83, maybe 80. And Italian journalist, photographer, and now married to John Marshall, the esteemed yacht designer, one of the smartest guys I've ever met, period. Forget about America's Cup, but John Marshall, and the two of them, who are a few years older than I, are keen observers of the passing scene. And of course, Margarita is Italian and understands perhaps with more nuance than I and others. So I respect her views and would love to have her and John on the show.
Well, that would be a good idea.
And Ted Ryman is saying Magnus is wrong. The RYA is untouchable, unscrutable. Well, I'm not so sure about that. I'm sure they've made some mistakes. We all do. But I thought, sorry to repeat, but I thought this was over the top, Magnus, and I've said so to you personally, privately, before I put it on the show. MTM on his Rule 6, which I still commend to you. Everyone should get a subscription to this because it comes out at least in our morning. So it comes out sometimes in the middle of our night. And if I have to get up to take a wee, as they would say, I have to have some self-discipline not to turn on my phone to see if Magnus has published or not.
He has a wonderful turn of phrase, and I really love reading his writing.
He does. So the Royal Yacht Squadron came into a fair amount of criticism by Magnus, but nobody else. I haven't heard any criticism of them from anyone else, and I'm sure there has been some here or there, but I used that cover photo the other day when I knew things were coming apart, and I couldn't say much more than that. But Bertie Bickett, who is the chairman of the Royal Yacht Squadron Limited, which is the sister organization, which actually is the parent of the challenge, and Alex Hayworth, let's not go into that because that horse, we've beaten that horse, and I've never felt that was a big problem. And even if it were, it's not been challenged in court for ages, forever. Yeah, Julia. So, but Bertie is now, it's public. I'm not telling you anything that's not public, but he is to become the Commodore of the Royal Yacht Squadron, I believe, in October.
Oh, that's soon.
Yeah. And America's Cup risks delay was the headline in the Times over the weekend as Ben Ainsley accuses the Kiwis of unfair advantage. We reported this to you on Friday's show. It was actually last week. And it's a tough situation for the challenger of record because they're under pressure from the other challengers not to sign the deal and to try to stand up, be tough, and get some changes to the protocol. And without a protocol, as a lot of you in the chat are saying, you don't have an event. Now, to be fair, those of you who are criticizing Mr. Dalton and the team, and by extension the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron, for doing an event venue before the protocol, I don't buy that. It's a chicken and egg situation to have a protocol and a venue, and you got to be talking to the challengers and saying, here's what the deal is going to be, and we'll get a venue and we can, and when we do, here's what we think it'll be. Remember, the venue normally is automatisch, as the Germans would say, Julia.
Yep.
It's automatic. It's at your venue of your home defending club. It's only when you're putting the venue out to bid that you have this chicken and egg situation with the protocol and what the rules are going to be for the next event. At the same time, the venue is up in the proverbial air. You don't know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Why does the COR have to pay €5 million to challenge? Well, there's always been an entry fee to help fund the event. The defender doesn't have to pay that fee, we note in the protocol. But I don't want to go into the protocol. We covered all that the other day. If you want to go back, watch Friday's show, because I talked a lot about the protocol. And thank you very much for all the comments, the many positive comments, Julia.
Yeah.
After that show that we did last Friday, and where we went into the details of the protocol at some length. And let's not do that again today, because we're going to put more than Blake Middleton to sleep if we do that. The Associated Press ran this story late last week. An America's Cup without an American boat, meaning if New York Yacht Club American Magic does not challenge, and they said in their release that they may not. And we know that Alinghi, the Red Bull Alinghi Racing, have also, in the person of Mr. Ernesto Bertarelli, and I can confirm what I told you. We broke the news on the show the other day that he has sent a letter to the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron, and it was not a pleasant letter. He sent a private letter to them. I've not seen the letter, just to be fair, but I have had it characterized to me by several people who have seen it. And he has sent a letter to the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron demanding an AC-37 accounting of the funds. And it's specifically what he wants to know, and the other challengers want to know, how much money did AC-37 make and where did the surplus go? So that is the situation that is got. And Richard Gladwell tells me, oh, no, it's not the money. You're making too big a deal. Richard Gladwell, the esteemed journalist and longtime dear friend, sail-world.com, in the New Zealand editor thereof. And he said, oh, it's not the money. It's that Mr. Dalton doesn't want to have to run the event again, and ACE wants to turn that over to an AC partnership and wash his hands of it. Well, if he does, why doesn't he turn it over to the AC partnership, let them conduct the venue search, let them do the venue deal, let them get everybody together and have a discussion and a debate and finally agree some ground rules, AKA the protocol. Well, he wants to do all that, then turn it over to ACP, which is, sorry. So the beloved protocol, as far as I know, confirming what I said a minute ago, has not been signed. And those clubs, those other challengers and clubs, are complaining bitterly about transparency, especially if they want to make it to Napoli. As Jim Fisher is saying there, hello, Jim. Dollar signs, follow the money.
Ed Worley, too.
And Edward, yeah, a lot of you are. So the protocol has not been signed, and it's, even though the file name, there's some confusion. Some of you thought Richard Gladwell had said that it was the final draft of the it's not. Presumably Russell Green, who is the drafter and a rules advisor, legal counsel for Mr. Dalton and the team, and a longtime friend of mine and very smart, very capable. The file name is Final Draft, but it's not a final draft because when you read through it, as we pointed out last Friday, there are several sections that they've highlighted in yellow that even the defender has not agreed. So it's not the final draft, let alone it. Has it been signed? No, it has not.
Give them a year or so.
Well, that's the problem. The clock is ticking. And if you're a team and you don't know what the class rule is, and they don't, except they know that there aren't going to be cyclors and that only electric power is going to be permitted. And there's some articles appearing about that, including, look at this great, this is in Sailing Anarchy today. Humans need not apply. And I won't read the whole article.
Yeah.
But what can we learn about the likely boats and their crews for AC-38? The biggest change is that it seems we have seen the last of the 4 silly cyclists who spent their entire race time pedaling to generate hydraulic power. The draft of the protocol is unequivocal. Quote, manual power input will not be permitted except in steering And the AC-75 class rule will allow, nobody's seen it yet except the Defender, they're writing it, the AC-75 class rule will allow power equivalent to that generated by 4 cyclers to be supplied to control sail functions with a supplied battery-powered system. So the Cup will be all electric. Any recognition that fitness, strength, and skill are fundamental aspects of yacht racing, thank you for using those words, yacht racing, has now been dumped. Humans need not apply. And that, Julia, from an anarchist whom I don't know, named David, who we believe, Stingray believes, is from Australia. Thank you, Stingray. And others who I've consulted. And David is somebody who writes often on sailing anarchy. And I think in this case, he is right to point this out. We have gone, as I said a minute ago, Julia, from manual power only. Stored energy and other power has always, big picture, long term, been prohibited in our sport. Gradually, for big maxi yachts, it's slipped in, and you can use battery-powered winches in certain circumstances. You get rating penalties and so on.
Yeah.
And the America's Cup, of course, last time allowed batteries to power the stuff below the water, meaning the gecko arms.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
The gecko arms. And then had the cyclors doing, which are grinders, but they were cyclors, except, well, they were all cyclors.
Yeah.
Powering everything above the waterline, meaning the sails. This time it's going to be push-button sailing, all electric sailing. And I think this anarchist David is correct.
Yeah.
Humans need not apply. There was another article in Sailing Anarchy today. And by the way, I look around, as you know, Julia, I look around at Live Sail Die, the website down in New Zealand, at Magnus's writing and Richard Gladwell's writings, especially those two,
Right.
and every other website and some of the Italian sites, and with great appreciation to Stingray, who sends me links, and many others.
Yes.
Ed Worley, Mark Holland, and others, all sending me links to articles in newspapers, websites, and so on around the proverbial world.
Right.
Much appreciated. I'm not just pulling things out that I think are particularly interesting because they're in Sailing Anarchy. Melting like Neapolitan ice cream was the headline in another
sounds
piece
good.
today. In my view, a journal writing in Sail World, meaning Gladwell, I assume, about the America's Cup 38, stating that the events in Italy are, quote, proof positive that the 38th America's Cup is underway, unquote. I gave Richard some shtick about this, too. Is more than a little premature. There is no America's Cup without an agreed challenger, meaning challenger of record, while at the moment, all we seem to have is an aggrieved challenger or two. Well, I think, to be fair, you got Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli, who are moving ahead. Athena Racing and American Magic are both plainly unhappy with the, quote, final draft, unquote, which is not the final draft, of the AC-38 protocol. Even its title, Final Draft, is a bit presumptuous of ETNZ and RNZ-YS, as the COR has yet to respond with any required or at least requested changes. Currently, it is more akin to an RSVP request, Julia.
Yeah.
You like that?
Yeah.
I knew you would. ETNZ's Grant Dalton and the authors of this draft protocol, meaning Russell Green, need to, and the rest of their senior members of their team, need to remember it is that there needs to be, quote, mutual consent, unquote, on all aspects of the competition. Otherwise, all bets quite literally are off, meaning you end up with a deed of gift challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to resort, you're forced to resort to the default provisions of the deed of gift, which says if you can't find mutual consent, here is the number of races, here are the length of the races, here's the size of the boats, yada, yada.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we've covered that before. I won't go over that ground again today. That little bit today, also on the front page of Sailing Anarchy, is from says Shanghai sailor who we believe is a Brit living in, well, Shanghai, in China for some years. Bravo salute to them both, to David and to Shanghai Sailor, for what I thought were cogent and clear and prescient even articles. So there is the original 1857 deed of gift. And again, without dwelling on all this, there are two key points I want to make. The club challenging for the cup and the club holding the same may, by mutual consent, make any arrangement satisfactory to both as to the dates, courses, number of trials, rules, and sailing regulations, and any and all other conditions of the match, in which case also the 10 months notice of challenge may be waived. Fair enough. And I call that, as many others of you do, we call it the mutual consent provision.
Mm-hmm.
The other point that I want to emphasize is that under the terms of this deed of gift, it is distinctly understood that the cup is to be the property of the club, in trust, by the way, subject to the provisions of this deed, and not the property of the owner or owners of any vessel winning a match. That is the property provision, as I call it.
Mm-hmm.
And just to summarize my view on this, usually I don't write these things down. I don't use a teleprompter. I don't have a script, but in this case, I want to get it perfectly correct. I've read the protocol. I've read Gladwell. I've read Wheatley, and will continue to do so, and many others. I've had private consultations with team reps. I've talked to other experts on the deed, the history, protocol, class rule, etc. Everyone is missing the point. Not everyone. Most everyone is missing the point. It is not about the arcane provisions of the protocol. It's about the money that has these other challengers upset, and I don't blame them. Follow the money. And that's all they're asking, is to have transparency as to the money. Who's getting it? Where's it coming from? And where is it going? That's TFE
Amen.
Last Friday.
Yeah.
Ted Ryman asserts the surplus money is in Budapest. I rather suspect that's not the case. Steve Adkins checking in from Long Island Sound. Tom Fishbeck, I'm addicted to placebos. The protocol will be AC 39, not 38. I've been hearing from Alex Hayworth, who's a Brit and very keen on this stuff. He's submitting that this will be a deed of gift match. When does the Royal Yacht Squadrons Limited challenge expire? Well, Stingray, as you know, they have a MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding, that was signed as the ETNZ boat crossed the finish line, and the two clubs signed this Memorandum of Understanding. This has been going on for years.
Mm-hmm.
And that constitutes the first challenge in, under which then they usually go off and negotiate a protocol, which is the mutual consent for the rules for the next event. Margarita Marshall is replying to herself, the international media should start to study Italian. They will know much. That's a good point, because there's a lot of articles, there's a lot of information in the Italian media, sailing and otherwise. In fact, mainstream media in Italy covers this a lot better than the mainstream media in most other countries.
And always has, for some reason. They've had great following of the America's Cup.
I have indeed. Just make it remote control like Chair Force pilots, J. Frederick Bland is saying. Might be better off with battery power, AI intelligent, Dalton robot. Well, you could sit on shore and run these boats. You wouldn't even have to be on the boat,
Sure.
Stingray, as you well know. He being a code jockey retired from Boeing. He knows about AI. Chris Dewar, just canceled my gym membership. How do I get on a team?
That's very good.
Comment of the day from Chris Dewar.
That's
Right?
good. That's good.
That was good. Okay, got to go back, Julia, and read the comments, right?
Yes.
Isn't that what you always tell us?
I always tell you that, because it is true. You think you hear and read all of it, but you don't. And there are lots of wonderful comments.
Yeah, indeed.
And spots of brightness.
Ed Worley asking also, does a hip pocket challenge expire? Well, that's a good question. I have to think about that a little bit. I don't want to shoot from the hip, Ed. And we shall see. And Mark Holland agrees. We had a large number of Italian reporters in the media. He was there. In the media center for AC-37. They were really engaged, and I guarantee you that the Italian journalists have been really engaged since 1983, which is more than 40 years, which is how far I go back to, actually 1980. Alex Hayworth thinks it expires after 10 months because of the 10-month notice of challenge. I'm not so sure about that, Alex. We'll check that out. I will reassert, that the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron are the real culprit in this mess, not the Royal Yacht Squadron, not the New York Yacht Club, not Ernesto Bertarelli, not even Mr. Dalton, although he is the antagonist. The Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron have let Mr. Dalton go off and make this event his property. They are the worst trustee in the America's Cup history, and they should have stopped him. They should have insisted that the event be in Auckland, and that would have solved about 90% of these problems, or of the big problem.
Yeah.
Julia, final thoughts?
Well, we're not quite finished with this phase, and I'm look forward to what the sort of transgressions and mitigations are going to happen in the next.
Rhode Island Rover says not a gentleman's sport anymore. Julia, do you agree with that? It's never been a gentleman's sport. It's a tough, hard-nosed, tough competition. Mark Holland says, hold on to your drinks. The building is about to flip again. He thinks that the squadron is going to come to the rescue of the Cup. We shall see.
Oh, well, that would be good.
It would be good. The Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron may be trapped by the contracts with TNZ. No doubt there's a contract, and they're worried about getting sued by Mr. Dalton.
And he should be worried about getting sued by them.
Well, exactly. Daniel Grun from Germany is on saying, Gladwell says entries open on Sunday, apparently without a signed protocol. This is nonsense. I agree with you. I agree with you, Mr. Grun. Herr Grun in Augsburg, Germany. One of our regular.
Yes.
He doesn't often comment.
No, but
he lurks.
We've got a lot of lurkers we've discovered.
We've just discovered that?
No. But we know that.
Are lurkers good?
Yeah, well, sure.
Lurkers are terrific.
Yeah.
Come on and say what you think, and think what you say. If you disagree with me on this point, we want to hear it. Or any other point for that matter.
Right.
Okay, Julia, enough on the Cup. Let's go to Sail GP, which is going from strength to strength. It looks like a new era for the Italian sailing team was announced yesterday. Sail GP announces star-studded ownership group and a bold new vision for the Italian team. And that big article, lead article on their website yesterday, and it was announced in Milano, another Italy story. Sail GP has today announced that the Red Bull Italy Sail GP team has officially been acquired by a consortium of accomplished investors and sports industry leaders, including Hollywood royalty, Julia, Anne Hathaway. The consortium is led by Muse Capital, founding partner Asia Grazioli Venier, I guess, and luxury brand entrepreneur Gianluca Passi de Preposulo, with one of the world's most decorated sailors and Sail GP icon, our longtime friend Jimmy Spithill, who will serve as CEO and co-owner.
Royal Prince Alfred Yacht Club.
Your old friend, and you know that family well as well. The new ownership group brings together, I'll work on the pronunciations, Julia. You better work on your Italian, Julia. Help me out. The new ownership group brings together a powerful combination of elite sports leadership, entrepreneurial vision, and so you think Magnus wrote this. This is great prose. And celebrity status with deep-rooted expertise in brand building and media. The acquisition also marks a first for the Global Racing Championship, establishing Red Bull Italy Sail GP with a female-led ownership group and a firm eye on the growing commercial viability of the mixed gender championship, because remember, they have women, they have required women on the boats since before. Now the America's Cup is going to require a woman and a ute.
Yep.
A ute.
A ute.
Remember the movie?
Yes.
My Cousin Vinny?
Yes.
The Ute, Your Honor. What are the Utes? We'll play that clip sometime on here. Jimmy Spithill. Sometimes you're the rooster and sometimes you're the feather duster, one of his best quotes ever. And he said that a long time ago, not in conjunction with this, but he is the co-owner and CEO, and no doubt very happy about it, and probably happy not to be involved in the America's Cup. This is the next event coming up in New York, the Mubadala New York Sail Grand Prix, the weekend after next, June 7th and 8th.
I was taken aback by the story, the picture of the grandstand.
Well, it's Governor's Island, and it's not a great place to sail. Well, hopefully they'll have some good sailing conditions. Hopefully. But that's coming up, as I said, the weekend after next. So if you're there, buy your tickets now, 7th and 8th of June, sailgp.com/New York. Julia, that gets us happily to the last leg. And that famous painting that we probably made more famous by you singing our last leg. I'm not going to play this whole video because we're now at 1,500. We're in 2 hours for this show. It's a fabulous video. I commend it to you. It's about 6 minutes and change long, 6.5 minutes. And it is about classic yachting, classic yacht racing in Auckland. And it's classic yachts in slow motion, prepared for the prize giving of the classic yacht circuit down there, in which Hamish Ross, another one of our Super FOSI, participate, and others. Watch this, at least for a couple minutes. Steve Atkins, Commodore Atkins in Connecticut saying beautiful. Ted Ryman down in South Africa saying, I could watch these boats all day. They are stunning.
I agree.
I could watch these boats all day. I mean, look, it's just fabulous. It's a nice way to end the show when we've been talking about all this high-tech stuff from the get-go, at least since John Emmett's report. Gordon Smith saying, that looks like a great place to run an AC. Do they have any money? Ed Worley saying, thank you for a comforting way to end the show. Beautiful yachts. Yeah, the videographer and photographer is a guy called Roger Mills. We featured his photos and videos since he did a lot of coverage of the Cup down there, 2021. Hummingbird Video and Photo is the name of his company and his YouTube channel. Hummingbird Video and Photo. I commend that YouTube channel to you. Maura Stevens agreeing there's nothing like a classic yacht.
Oh, I know.
Alistair Murray, just gorgeous. They must lose a few oldies overboard, though. No lifelines. Yeah, Hamish Ross and Brad Butterworth own one of those boats. Is it, I can't remember, is it A3, A5, one of those boats?
Yep.
Mary Jude in Philadelphia, Mary Jude Szymanski, sweet ending.
Yes.
Bill Haynes, William D. Haynes, humans working on a boat? That's outrageous. Mary Longpree, thank you for your kind notes to this earlier this week. Mary Longpree, that is yacht racing. Love this. She is a photographer as well.
Yes.
Of considerable repute down in, well, she may be in Sedona in Arizona at their winter home, but no doubt will be up in Newport Beach, Balboa Yacht Club soon. Mary Longpree, thank you for that. Tom Fishbeck, pushing lead through the water, actually pulling lead through the water. The sails do, right?
Yeah.
Rengi Toto in the background. What a great place to sail. Looks like, as a couple of you said, it's a great place to hold the America's Cup.
It is.
The land of the long white cloud.
Yep.
Okay. I commend it to you. Go watch the video. And that is... again, his name is Roger Mills. Hummingbird Video and Photo is his YouTube channel. I have it in my notes as we get, Julia, to your favorite segment. And nice music to go with it. Agreed, Alistair Murray.
Yes.
We got an AAAA from Alistair coming up on Friday's show, Julia.
Oh, good.
The music is cool as well. Great vid. Julia, Whiskey, Tango, Foxtrot. got a fair number of submissions, not only leading up to yesterday's postponed show,
yes,
but also today. We had some submissions this morning. Start out clean from Greg Phillips.
Okay.
On the Gold Coast in Oz. We've got a cardboard box for $30. We got a laundry basket for $50 at the Cat Hotel. Or the top of the refrigerator, our penthouse for $125. Did you ever have cats? You don't like cats, do you?
No. I grew up in a house that always had lots of cats and dogs.
And dogs. Well, you grew up in a ranch.
Yeah.
I like that. That's from Greg Phillips. My wife and daughter are big cat freaks. We always had cats running around. They like my wife and daughter better than they like me. That's for sure. Now, Greg Phillips, it's a bit spicier here. He apparently likes dogs now. He says, let's see how you like not playing with your balls for a week. Now, that's Jody, because the word testicle is a drinking word on this show, we know from.
Yes.
So we've got a testicle. Funny here from Greg Phillips. Thank you, Greg. Now they're getting a little spicier yet. Doctor, not Mr. Doctor, but doctor, my husband wants intense sex all day. What can I give him?
My number.
My number. I thought you'd like that, Julia.
I do.
Huh?
Oh, yes, I do.
That, you know who sent that in? Ted Ryman.
Oh, well.
It's
yeah.
fairly clean.
It is.
When we get one from Ryman that's clean, we got to go with it, right?
Yeah.
Apropos our discussion at the top of the show, we like to bookcase the show and have bookend the show.
Yes.
Top and bottom, we were talking about sailing naked. Life is short, sail naked, the No Pants Club. That from Ed Worley.
Ed Worley.
Ed Worley. I wonder if Ed, tell us in the chat if you've ever sailed naked. I mean, it's tough for guys to sail naked, Julia.
Is it?
Not that I've ever tried.
Some people
You sit on your junk.
Yeah.
It's not good. You're moving from side to side, and even if you've got, that's why sailors wear Speedos on under their shorts.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is too much information.
Yes.
Let's skip ahead. I love, and this is not from me. I didn't put this in because of how I'm feeling. I'm not feeling happy about the cup. I have no Schadenfreude whatsoever. Well, maybe a touch, but not much.
Mm-hmm.
I love the smell of Schadenfreude in the morning. And if you don't know the meaning of that word, look it up. Mm-hmm. If you're not German and you're not John Sangmeister or Julia, because Julia knows the meaning of that. I love the smell of Schadenfreude in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Julia?
Sir.
That's it. That gets us.
Is that all?
That gets us. Yeah, I had to end with that pithy comment from Sangmeister. Finish line is the last slide. And Julia, you like to say?
Yes, never forget to like, follow, and share. Makes us very popular and gives us lots of
Indeed. That's good for the algorithm. Comments are welcome too, even in replay. We know a lot of you watch the show in replay. We leave, unlike most shows, we leave the comments open because we rarely, if ever, get comments that are crotonic, that are name calling or personal attacks or use coarse language. And if we do, you, Julia, you boot them.
Yep.
You clean them off the website and you block them. One strike and you're out. You block them in perpetuity, right?
Right.
We also want to thank all of you who support us here on the channel, patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated, so that we have a studio that works. We have equipment that we constantly try to improve step by step. We try to get a little bit better. Gordon Smith is using the drinking word. And we'll see you in a couple days, not in just one day, or not just, normally I get Wednesday and Thursday off, but I got to go right back at it and prepare a show tomorrow for Friday. We'll be back at it normal time, same channel. Hope you can join us then. And also thank you to all who gave us a lot of big, long list today of those who gave us audio, video, and images for today's show. And with that, Julia, we'll bid everybody our closing comments, which is go sailing.
Yeah.
And if you can and do, sail fast, sail safe, and have fun. See you Friday. Ciao for now.